How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today we've got part two. We're talking about 3 of the coolest neighborhoods Denver has to offer, and we're talking about them starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett, and listen, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around Denver, Colorado, then this is a channel for you. So that subscribe button and notification icon you see on your screen, make sure you click on that as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And as much as I pretend to be a little creative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of Denver's most talented realtors. So the number and email you see on your screen, know that I am always the person answering your phone calls, answering your texts, answering your emails, there when and if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is exploring 3 of the coolest neighborhoods Denver has to offer. All right, so this is part 2 of our exploration of some of the coolest neighborhoods in Denver. And if part 1, if you haven't checked it out yet, the ultimate guide to Denver neighborhoods, you're gonna see towns that are or areas I should say, that are very urban, suburban. Areas that if you look at Denver, you're gonna learn about or hear about very quickly. RiNo, Lodo, both located near downtown or in downtown. The Highlands, Sloans Lake, Cap Hill, Uptown, all areas that again are very lively. They still have a lot of that downtown element to them, although as you start to get over into the Highlands and Sloans Lake, you feel more suburb-ish. Today we're going to talk about neighborhoods that still give you a ton of access to downtown Denver. You're still in Denver proper, you're still very close to the city, but it gives you a calmer nature, more of a suburb feel, still with some walkability, shops, things of that nature that give you a high quality of life for whatever circumstance or stage of life you are in. So having said that, the first area we're going to talk about is Park Hill, one of the most historic, original neighborhoods in all of Denver. And you're going to hear that term historic several times during this part. So Park Hill, split into North and South Park Hill, starts east of Colorado Boulevard, east of downtown Denver. And these neighborhoods, as I mentioned, started being formed. The plot itself came around in the late 1800s, and most of the homes started to be built in the early 1900s, at least the earliest communities of Park Hill. So within that, you're going to see these, here it comes again, historic Tudors, colonial revivals, craftsmen. There's even some Sears catalog homes within that community. And because of, again, its history and when it was built, you'll see a lot of the roads there have really wide streets, wider sidewalks, and the properties tend to be, at least some of them, on larger plots of land with, again, because these properties were formed in the early 1900s, you have mature trees that have been around for 100+ years. So the community itself has just this great feel to it. And I talk about this a lot. As I started making these videos, let's say a year and a half ago, one of the things I had to do was really dive into some of these communities that I didn't know a ton about. And so in talking to clients, talking to friends that live in these areas, and spending time in Park Hill, it was rapidly an area that you realize why so many people choose or want to live there. So along with this history and the great neighborhoods, you have access to either quickly or a short drive to areas like Denver City Park, Denver Golf Course, Denver Zoo, Botanical Gardens, all within earshot. You are very close, depending on what part of Park Hill, you could walk to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, or again have, let's call it a 5-minute drive. So all of these things of the city, coupled with the fact that, from plenty of homes, you can see downtown is right there. You're within, let's say, 5 to 10 minutes if traffic is backed up. 5 minutes if there's no traffic of getting down into the city. Enough on the outskirts where you're not getting the hustle and bustle of that city. And along with that, I mentioned Park Hill really covers, in my opinion, every stage of life. Whether you're moving there by yourself, you're close enough to amenities and livelihood of things that you may want to do. If you're moving there with a partner, whether that's significant friends, what have you, again, there's things to do there and close enough to Denver. And last, if you're moving there with a family from high-ranking elementary schools, including Park Hill Elementary and Stidham Elementary, all the way through middle and high schools, you have all the facets. So no matter what stage of life, no matter what age, no matter what gap, you're moving into an area that covers that. In addition, one of the things that Park Hill is known for, and really all of the neighborhoods we're going to talk about today are known for, is that walkability. That not only, we talk about wide sidewalks, but we talk about how beautiful the Park Hill area is. And then as you're walking around, you have that city feel with City Park, and you can walk over to the museum in these different areas. And one of my favorite inclusions, if you will, with Park Hill is the different events that it hosts, including they got their own jazz fest that they have each year, and they also have a Park Hill home tour, which has been going on for decades. Now, Park Hill, as I mentioned, is split between South Park Hill, North Park Hill. South Park Hill being, again, closer to City Park, being closer to the museum, tends to be, and the homes, I should say, in South Park Hill tend to be on larger plots of land. They tend to be at a higher price point, but Park Hill in general is very desirable. So from Park Hill, if you've seen the first edition of this neighborhood tours, I like to cover a couple areas in one, and I'm doing it again here. So our next areas that we're going to cover is Wash Park and Platt Park. So both of these are located south, wrapping around southeast of downtown Denver. Again, all of these communities we're talking about today are still, for the most part, Denver proper. That is, they have a Denver address. So Wash Park, or Washington Park, if you're not from Denver, is one of the prettiest parks that you're going to see maybe anywhere, but certainly in Denver. Just a very cool park with a huge walking track or running track, if you're into that running stuff, going around it, a couple lakes, tennis courts, a boathouse. They have a lot of different events there, including weddings from time to time. And it's just a great place to go. If you have ever been to Denver, you could go to Wash Park on any sunny day, or even if it's cloudy and rainy for that matter, and you will find that park packed. Guarantee if you want to know where people are going on a summer day in Denver, odds are they may be choosing to head to Wash Park. Now, surrounding it, you have some of the coolest houses that you are going to see. And again, I like to say historic. Some of those are going to be these incredible, historic homes of all varieties, whether they're detached, I wouldn't say historic townhomes, but townhomes, condos, apartments. You have brand new construction. You have homes that have been, leveled inside, completely remodeled inside. You have homes that have been around since the turn of the century that have kept that uniqueness, mainly been minorly updated. I'm just trying to trip myself up. But within that beauty and all of these housing options, you still have the convenience factor of being close enough to get to downtown Denver in 10 or 15 minutes, depending on traffic, call it 20 if things are backed up. And you also have quick access to I-25 if you want to shoot up and over to the mountains. And before anybody talks crap, you're going to take I-25 to get to whether it's 6th Avenue or down to C-470 to head over to the mountains. Or 225 for that matter, but I'm not here to give you geography lessons as far as what roads you're going to take. We'll talk about that in a separate video. Basically, I just didn't want folks thinking that I'm telling you to go north or south to get to the mountains. And within Wash Park are a couple different neighborhoods where you're going to have some restaurants, some cafes, some shops to check out. Wash Perk, P-E-R-K, one of my favorite coffee shops right next to the park. Great place to check out. So just a great community. Now, again, I will preface, every community we're talking about today, great location, safe, family-friendly, walkable, all of those things. They are also going to be higher on that cost spectrum. Whether you are buying or renting, these are going to be high desirable areas. And I can't talk about Wash Park without then talking about Platt Park. And Platt Park, man, I mentioned to you how Park Hill had really grown on me. Platt Park has been, I've been a big fan of that area for a long period of time. Now, obviously you have Platt Park within that area, smaller, much smaller park than Wash Park, not comparable. But within Platt Park, again, a lot of the same elements that Wash Park provides, not quite at the same price point. You're gonna be, your cost is going to be slightly lower in Platt Park, but you're still gonna have detached homes, townhomes, condos, apartments. You're still gonna have all of those elements. Again, new builds, homes that have been around since the early 1900s, and everything in between. But what I love most about Platt Park is two strips of road that it contains. The first would be South Broadway. So Broadway runs right outside of Denver. We've talked about that road before, but along South Broadway is again a strip of a lot of different restaurants, bars, places of entertainment that you're going to want to explore. Make sure you check out Adelita's, grab a margarita, grab yourself a taco. It's fantastic. But even better, in my humble opinion, than South Broadway is if you shoot over to Pearl Street. So you're gonna hear Pearl Street. There's a Pearl Street here in Denver. There's a Pearl Street up in Boulder, but Pearl Street running through Platt Park is one of the most walkable, coolest strips of road you're ever going to find. Along it, you are going to have a ton of restaurants, breweries, coffee shops, private, shops, dress shops, this and that, small businesses galore. And also along that strip, there are different housing options. There's some detached homes along it. There's some townhomes, there's some apartments. So very easy for people to find living scenarios in which they're close enough to Pearl Street to get to it, whether it's a short drive or even just walking over. And some of the best restaurants, including one of the most popular sushi restaurants in all of Denver, Sushi Den, are located along Pearl Street. There's also a sweet cow on Pearl Street, which is ice cream. So we'll talk about that. I'll digress and I'll start eating ice cream here in front of you. But just a ton to do there. It's pretty easy to understand why Platt Park is as popular as it is. And I'll tell you, as far as nights out, from where I live, if we are going out, I've talked a lot about the Highlands, one of my favorite spots. Platt Park is probably a close second as far as how often I am hanging out in a given area of town, at least an area of town, obviously, that I don't live in. And again, Wash Park and Platt Park kind of blending in together. Very easy access, whether you're getting downtown, whether you're trying to shoot south because you need to get into the Denver Tech Center, whether you are trying to get to another road so that you can get to the mountains. Very easy access wherever you are. And again, when we talk about Wash Park, when we talk about Platt Park, I'll reiterate, extremely walkable, very safe neighborhoods, good schools, in an area that is extremely desirable. And to wrap up, we've got a couple of the most popular neighborhoods in all of Denver, and that is Cherry Creek, tying into Hilltop. So when you think about the perhaps most walkable area in all of Denver, and the most commuted area in all of Denver, that would be Cherry Creek. So Cherry Creek, east of Denver, heading straight out, there's a road called Spear leaving Denver. It eventually turns into First Avenue, and First Avenue leads you into Cherry Creek. So Cherry Creek is blocks and blocks and blocks of shopping, coffee, restaurants, bars, but primarily shopping. If you are looking for something that you want to buy, odds are, whether it's a car, a purse, jewelry, I'm not a huge shopper, so I'm just throwing things out, odds are you're going to find it in Cherry Creek. On top of that, it is the hub for plenty of businesses, including basically any lending or real estate company you could possibly find. So if you're talking business lunches, entertaining situations, a lot of that is going to happen in Cherry Creek. Because of this, again, it has some of the higher price points. And listen, guys, I'm not a fan. I see plenty of videos where people are talking about, the average home sale is this, the average rent price is this. The fact is, by the time you watch this, any of those numbers could have increased, decreased, what have you. So, check out as far as the average purchase price or rent at the time. but Cherry Creek is always going to be a premium. You're going to pay more to live in Cherry Creek than you would anywhere. At most places, I should say. Now, obviously, we've talked a lot of pros of Cherry Creek as safe, my humble opinion, as safe as it's going to get, as walkable as anywhere you're going to see. Again, the levels of whether you are single, couples, family, what have you, any stage, any age of life, you're covered in Cherry Creek. If there is a drawback, it is the fact that Cherry Creek goes quiet pretty early. By about 9, 10 o'clock, it's pretty much crickets in Cherry Creek. So that's the drawback. The benefit being, again, with Cherry Creek, you have very quick access. You're close to Denver. You're close to the highways. It can be a little tricky getting over to I-25, but you're close to the highways to get out of there. But there you have it. And as far as living situations, some of the best apartments you're going to find, condos. When we start talking about townhomes and we start talking about detached homes, listen, any of these neighborhoods, like I said, price points are going to be high, but some of these homes that you're going to see in those neighborhoods, impressive. And then tied to Cherry Creek is the neighborhood of Hilltop. Hilltop is a neighborhood that I just love exploring. Now, Hilltop on its own, some of the nicest, prettiest, largest homes you're going to see. All sorts of varieties. Again, you're going to see homes that were new builds. You're going to see homes that were restored. You're going to see homes that were built decades ago that have been kept to pristine levels. You're going to see very wide streets. You're going to see a ton of walkability with parks. You're going to see kids riding their bicycles. You're going to see very nice cars. It is one of the upper tier neighborhoods that you're going to find anywhere in Denver. Now, there's not a lot outside of, getting outside and going to the parks in Hilltop. There's not a lot to do in Hilltop, but you are extremely close to Cherry Creek. So most of the people living in Hilltop, if they are not going elsewhere, it is extremely convenient for them to spend time in Cherry Creek for their shopping, for their eating, for their cocktails, for their meetings, what have you. So between Cherry Creek and Hilltop, those are going to be two of the most desired areas that you're going to find in Denver. Realistically, if you're in a rent situation, Cherry Creek is probably going to be the one over Hilltop. From a purchase standpoint, if you can afford either of those houses, feel free to call me. I'll move in with you. All jokes aside, I wouldn't mind owning a house in Hilltop. But listen, that's that slow down, comfortable suburb-ish with a lot of convenience factor that these neighborhoods come into. If we're talking about, you want a little more hustle and bustle, you want a little more action, that's where you're definitely going to want to check out part one of the Ultimate Guides in Neighborhoods, where again, we're going to talk about RiNo, Lodo, Sloans Lake, Highlands, Cap Hill, Uptown. I'm just throwing out terms for you, but these are all definitely places that you're going to want to check out. But who knows? Maybe I missed the ultimate neighborhood that we should be talking about, and that's the perfect time for you to call me, text me, email me, and let me know what I should cover. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everett. This was the ultimate guide to the best neighborhoods in Denver, part 2. Until I see you next time, peace.